I never thought I would be the one to experience such betrayal, especially not from the woman I thought was my soulmate. It all started with a nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach on the night of her bachelorette party. I brushed it off as pre-wedding nerves, but little did I know, it was a foreshadowing of the heartbreak to come. As the night wore on, and the drinks flowed freely, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. When her phone kept buzzing incessantly, I couldn't resist the urge to take a peek. What I discovered shattered my world into a million pieces. Messages from her boss, explicit photos, videos of her with other men. It was a nightmare come to life. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the damning evidence, each revelation plunging the knife deeper into my heart. How could she do this to me? The woman I had loved since high school, the woman I was about to marry, she had betrayed me in the worst possible way. With a heavy heart, I made the decision to confront her, to demand answers for her infidelity. Little did I know, this was only the beginning of my journey into darkness. "Hey, honey, everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady as I held up her buzzing phone. Her eyes widened in panic as she quickly reached out to snatch it from my hand. It's just nothing really. Just some friends texting about the party." I forced myself to stay calm, even as my heart pounded in my chest. "Let me see then. It must be something important if they're blowing up your phone like this." She hesitated, her fingers trembling slightly as she unlocked her phone. For a moment, I saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes before she quickly masked it with a smile. "It's really nothing, just silly jokes and stuff." But as I scrolled through the messages, my blood turned to ice. The words stared back at me, accusing and damning. "This doesn't look like silly jokes, sweetheart. Care to explain why your boss is asking you to meet him at this hour?" Her face drained of color as she stammered for an explanation, but I didn't give her the chance to come up with one. I already knew the truth, and it was like a knife to the heart. "I think we need to talk," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, as the weight of her betrayal settled upon me like a heavy cloak. "About what's been going on behind my back." Confronting her was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Watching the tears stream down her face as she tried to explain away her actions was like a dagger twisting in my gut. She begged for forgiveness, claimed she didn't remember what happened, blamed it on alcohol and being taken advantage of. But deep down, I knew the truth. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a pattern of betrayal that she had carefully concealed from me for years. The thought of her sleeping with her boss, exchanging explicit messages with strangers, it made me sick to my stomach. Despite her pleas for forgiveness, I knew I couldn't stay with her. How could I trust her again? How could I ever look at her without seeing the woman who had shattered my heart into a million pieces? With a heavy heart, I made the painful decision to leave. Packing my bags and walking out the door felt like tearing off a bandage, each step a painful reminder of the life I was leaving behind. But deep down, I knew it was the only choice I had. "Please don't go," she sobbed, clutching at my arm as I made my way towards the door. I turned to look at her, my heart breaking at the sight of her tears. "I can't stay, not after what you've done. I need time to process all of this, to figure out what comes next." "But I love you," she pleaded, her voice raw with emotion. "I made a mistake, I know that now. Please, give me another chance to make things right." I wanted to believe her, to wrap her in my arms and pretend that none of this had ever happened. But deep down, I knew that it would only be a temporary fix, a band-aid over a gaping wound. "I need space," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper, as I stepped out into the cold night air. "Maybe someday we can talk about this, but for now, I need to be alone." As I walked away, leaving behind the woman I had loved with all my heart, I couldn't help but wonder if I would ever find the strength to forgive her, or if our love was lost forever. In the days and weeks that followed, I was consumed by loneliness and despair. Every waking moment was filled with thoughts of her, memories of our life together haunting me like ghosts from the past. I missed her more than words could express. despite the pain she had caused me. So when she reached out to me, expressing regret and longing for what we had lost, I was torn. Part of me wanted to run back into her arms, to believe that we could somehow make things right again. But another part of me knew that it was futile, that nothing could erase the betrayal that had shattered our marriage. Yet still, I found myself drawn to her like a moth to a flame. The thought of reconciling, of finding solace in her arms once more, it was a temptation I couldn't resist. But deep down, I knew that it would only lead to more heartache in the end. "I miss you," she whispered over the phone, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know I messed up, but I can't stop thinking about you. Can we please talk?" My heart ached at the sound of her voice, the memories flooding back with a force that threatened to overwhelm me. "I miss you too," I admitted, unable to deny the truth of her words. "But that doesn't change what happened, or how much you hurt me." "I know," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "And I'm so sorry for everything. I'll do anything to make it right, to earn back your trust." Her words tugged at my heartstrings, the temptation to forgive her almost too much to bear. But deep down, I knew that it wouldn't be that easy. That trust, once broken, was not so easily repaired. "I need time," I said finally, my voice heavy with resignation. "I need to figure out what I want, and what's best for both of us. But for now, I think it's best if we keep our distance." As I hung up the phone, the weight of her words lingered in the air like a specter, a reminder of the temptation that threatened to pull me back into her orbit. But deep down, I knew that I had to stay strong, to resist the siren song of her apologies and promises. For my own sake, and for the sake of my shattered heart. As I grappled with my feelings, another woman's story came to light, sending shockwaves through my world. A friend confided in me about her own husband's infidelity, how she had discovered evidence of his cheating at his bachelor party. It was like déjà vu, a painful reminder of the betrayal I had endured. Listening to her recount her struggles, her doubts about whether to forgive or leave, I couldn't help but see myself reflected in her words. Like me, she had been blindsided by the betrayal of the man she loved, left to pick up the pieces of her shattered heart. But unlike me, she hadn't yet made a decision about what to do next. She was still grappling with the pain and confusion, torn between her love for her husband and the betrayal he had inflicted upon her. As I listened to her story, I couldn't help but wonder, was there hope for reconciliation, or were we both doomed to a lifetime of heartache and regret? "He cheated on you too?" I asked, disbelief coloring my voice as I listened to my friend's story. She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes as she recounted the painful discovery of her husband's infidelity. "I found messages on his phone, photos from his bachelor party. It was like a knife to the heart, realizing that the man I loved had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I reached out to squeeze her hand, a silent gesture of solidarity in the face of shared pain. "I'm so sorry," I said softly, my heart breaking for her as I remembered my own anguish. "I don't know what to do," she admitted, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "Part of me wants to forgive him, to believe that we can work through this. But another part of me wonders if it's even worth it, if our marriage is beyond repair." I nodded in understanding, knowing all too well the agonizing struggle between love and betrayal. "I wish I had the answers," I said finally, my voice heavy with resignation. "But all I know is that we have to do what's best for ourselves, no matter how painful it might be." As we sat in silence, each lost in our own thoughts, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held for both of us. Would we find the strength to forgive, or would we be forever haunted by the ghosts of our pasts? Only time would tell. In the midst of my turmoil, another bombshell dropped. I discovered I was pregnant. The news sent shockwaves through my already fragile world, forcing me to confront the reality of my situation head-on. With a baby on the way, the stakes were higher than ever. I couldn't afford to make a hasty decision, to rush back into a relationship that was doomed to fail. Yet still, the temptation to reconcile with my husband lingered, fueled by the hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to make things work. But deep down, I knew the truth. Our marriage was broken beyond repair, irreparably damaged by the betrayal that had torn us apart. And as I stood at the crossroads of my life, I knew that I had to choose a path forward, no matter how painful it might be. "I'm pregnant," I whispered into the phone, my voice barely above a whisper, as I delivered the news to my husband. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line, followed by a flurry of emotions that I could hear in his voice. "Pregnant?" he echoed, his tone tinged with disbelief. "But how? I thought we were—" Tears welled up in my eyes as I struggled to find the words to explain, to make him understand the magnitude of what was happening. "I don't know how it happened," I admitted, my voice trembling with emotion. "But the fact remains, we're going to have a baby, whether we like it or not." For a moment, there was nothing but silence as we both grappled with the enormity of the situation. And then finally he spoke again, his voice thick with emotion. "I want to be there for you," he said softly, his words a balm to my wounded heart. "I want to do whatever it takes to make this right, to be the husband and father that you deserve." I wanted to believe him, to hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to build a future together. But deep down, I knew that it wasn't that simple. That trust, once broken, was not so easily repaired. "I need time," I said finally, my voice heavy with resignation. "Time to figure out what I want, and what's best for both of us. But for now, I think it's best if we keep our distance, until we can both come to terms with what's happened." As I hung up the phone, the weight of his words lingered in the air like a specter, a reminder of the difficult choices that lay ahead. But deep down, I knew that whatever path I chose, I would do it with the best interests of my unborn child at heart. And that, in the end, was all that mattered. Thank you for listening to the story to the end, and if you like it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you